Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back for your Pisces full moon lunar eclipse transit update reading. The full moon station's exact on August 28th at 12:18 in the morning Eastern Time, so potentially August 27th, depending on where you are in the world. And before we dive into the symbolism, the aspects, what we're going to be moving through for this eclipse specifically, I was called similar to the Leo new moon eclipse, excuse me. I was called to kind of bring it back to that Virgo eclipse that we had on the 3rd of March earlier this year. Just a quick rundown. I got my trusty notes right here. I'm just gonna read off of some of the aspects we were moving through on that day because it feels like this upcoming eclipse season is going to have a similar theme to that, as we're kind of transitioning from the Pisces Virgo eclipses into the Leo Aquarius eclipses. And the next year we're going to have our Cancer Capricorn eclipses. So I would like to present these almost as if to tie up these awarenesses, understandings, lessons in a pretty bow as we move through this eclipse season and prepare for next year's, again, Cancer and Capricorn eclipses to come online, right? Because Pisces, Virgo, sextile, trining, Cancer, Capricorn. So harmonious energies there if we know what to look for, if we recognize the pattern. So with that longer introduction than I meant to do, I'm actually going to pull up the Virgo eclipse chart here as well, so you can look at it as I go through it, and then we'll change to the Pisces eclipse chart momentarily. But for the Virgo eclipse, we had the North Node directly squaring Lilith at 8 degrees Pisces and Sagittarius, respectively. We had an abundance of Pisces energy, not a lick of it was retrograde at the time. So Mars was at 0 degrees Pisces, which is relevant for the 0 degree energies that we're going to be moving through during Virgo season, including Lilith moving into 0 degrees Capricorn, connecting back to the Capricorn eclipses we're going to be going through next year. Although I believe Lilith will be out of Capricorn by that point. I don't know the exact dates, but regardless, still relevant here. So back to the Pisces energy. Mars at 0 degrees Pisces, the North Node 8 degrees, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Persephone were all in Pisces, all of them direct. We also had Neptune and Saturn already in Aries together, and then we also had Chiron and Eris directly conjoining each other at 24 degrees Aries. And again, all of that energy was also direct forward moving. We had we already talked about that. Yeah, and then going back to Chiron and Eris, that conjunction there, we talked a lot about that earlier in the year, how Chiron coming together with Eris being the asteroid that represents chaos and calamity and discord, Chiron represents our deepest wounds and our efforts to heal them. Those two coming together, those asteroids, in that near exact conjunction, I think they're only like 4 minutes away from one another, or like very close to one another. And of course, I can't find it in the chart right now. Oh, because I'm not looking at the same chart, but they were very close together, right? Directly on top of one another. That conjunction represented Eris taking that grenade and throwing it into the walls that Chiron built up really high to protect us because of the wounds that we had experienced in the past. We built our walls so high that we couldn't see out of it, and we also couldn't see the ways we were being our own barrier of entry, right? We thought we built the walls for protection, and maybe at the time that we built the walls, that was true, but we grew out of the necessity of those walls, but we were still staying behind those walls. So Eris was coming in to throw the grenade into our kingdom, into our like our sanctuary that turned into a prison without us even realizing it because we got so comfortable within there, right? Eris threw that grenade in there, so the wall was decimated. And then of course after Chiron passed over Eris, we also had all of those other planets in Pisces eventually cross over and cross Eris as well. And we talked a lot about that throughout the year. But this eclipse, this Virgo full moon eclipse on the 3rd, that represented the final, like, we are not using our wounds as an excuse to stay small anymore. That's what this eclipse represented. And I always say eclipses represent beginnings and endings of cycles. So the Virgo full moon eclipse representing the ending of using our wounds as an excuse to stay small and stay hidden and stay trapped within our own mental prison. Even if our mental prison is really comfy and cozy and we have a great time in there, it's still a prison. A prison in Sweden is a lot different than a prison in America. And granted, in Sweden, they actually rehabilitate and send them back out to be normal human beings again, where America, the prison system's privatized, and I don't even want to talk about that because I will get very angry, and that's not the point of this video. But my point is, a prison in Sweden and a prison in America, very different, both still prisons. So even if your mental prison was like a prison in Sweden, you're still in prison. You still don't have all of your freedom. And you were the reason. You were the prisoner and the prison guard. So Eris was kind of like, we got to do something about that. Threw that grenade in to decimate the walls of your prison. And then all of the time leading up to now this eclipse season that we're moving through, through Leo and Virgo season, it's a checking in to say the walls crumbled. We had a whole other story that we were telling as we got comfortable kind of exploring the outside world again. So now where are you now? But before we get into the Pisces full moon eclipse stuff, I just want to finish this off. We also had Uranus at 27 degrees, making in a near exact sextile to Persephone. So they were only about 7 degrees away from one another, or 7 minutes away from one another, excuse me. 27 degrees in Taurus for Uranus and 27 degrees Pisces for Persephone. Persephone representing like the loss of innocence, right? The loss of innocence, and how sometimes the loss of innocence can mean the gaining of a kingdom, a gaining of a seat of power. Because yes, she lost her innocence. Yes, she was taken and treated horribly by her uncle, convoluted with her father, right? That story, I talk a lot about that story on here, so we won't get too far into it. But her losing her innocence, her being tricked into eating the pomegranate seed, her being forced onto that throne was also her gaining her true power, her true seat of wisdom. So the loss is also a gain. And especially once you stop looking at yourself from that victim mindset of seeing it only from, oh my God, I'm in pain, I'm hurt, and blah blah blah, and this and that. That's what that Pisces full moon or that Virgo full moon eclipse represented, was you finally be able to see beyond the layers of the trauma and the hurts and the pains that have been inflicted upon you or you have afflicted onto yourself, right? And we also had Psyche conjoining Eros at 14 and 15 degrees Gemini, the sign of the twins, ruled by a Pisces Mercury. And the planets that we highlighted that were in Aries at the time will still be in Aries during this Pisces full moon eclipse, except for Chiron. But what's fascinating here is Chiron during the Pisces full moon eclipse is going to be at 0 degrees Taurus just before it dips itself back into Aries, which happens during Virgo season. Chiron does eventually go back into Aries at that point. So while this Virgo eclipse represents the ending of eclipse season, I mean, we still have like that period of 2 weeks between the eclipse and then the new moon, which the new moon is the official end of the eclipse season, right? But it's the end of like the peak, the acme of the eclipse season, right? And then the 2 weeks after that is almost like the integration, the recalibration to get back into, our regularly scheduled programming, if you will. So during those 2 weeks, the fact that Chiron then dips itself back into Aries to join once again Neptune and Saturn and Eris. And this time, where all of them were moving forward, this time, every single one of them are all going to be retrograde. So there's something there about like the re-examination. That word revelation wants to come back. The re-examination leads to a greater revelation that you weren't previously able to see. The door was cracked open on the Virgo full moon eclipse in March. The door was cracked open, just a peek, just a little bit. It was cracked open. Everything happened after that, and as you were rediscovering and regaining your footing after the decimated walls came down, as you are regaining your footing and learning about the world around you and how you now interact with the world from this new vantage point. And while the vantage point isn't at the top of a high tower, the vantage point is on the ground. So where at the top of the high tower you could see farther, now that you're on the ground and you're exploring this new earth around you, you can see more in depth, more like greater detail of what you would have overlooked in the past. And it's almost in that way it introduced you to a brand new world, which is helping, which has, because this is back in March and then all through, which has helped you get reacclimatized to the world at large and your purpose and your place. And as you moved through this new detail oriented way of seeing the world, again, it's that perspective shift. You're moving through this new detail oriented way of seeing the world, and you rediscovered yourself in that journey throughout. After that we had what's it called, Aries season, and then Taurus season, and then Gemini season, and then Cancer season, and then Leo season. And all of those seasons themselves, especially Cancer and Leo season, have been ridiculous. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, if you were to ask me. But regardless, even through the ridiculousness, even through the extra energy, we'll call it, right? Especially now that Jupiter's in Leo, we can definitely just call it extra energy. Extra being, man, they're extra. Extra is not always a bad thing, but it's just a lot sometimes, right? It's just a lot. You rediscovered who you were. And so the Virgo full moon eclipse and the Aquarius new moon eclipse that happened just before the Virgo full moon eclipse. The Virgo full moon eclipse represented the walls coming down, the ending of the previous cycle, which you thought you had to keep yourself safe behind these walls. And from the time from the last eclipse season all the way up until the Leo new moon eclipse earlier, it was that space in between of like rediscovery, of recalibration, of reorientation. And then that Leo full moon eclipse, or that Leo new moon eclipse, excuse me, was almost like this birth, right? Like this birth of awareness, this birth of, now that I'm, it's okay, it's giving me the idea of like when you're playing a new open world video game, right? And no matter how skilled you are of a gamer, they always have like that first level where it's like you are learning the basics. You're going through different missions and like exploring the world around you to learn the basics. But ultimately, it's like that first chapter is always like a, this is how you do it. It's usually a lot easier than the subsequent things that happen later on because you're still learning. So between that Virgo full moon eclipse and then this Leo full moon or this Pisces full moon eclipse, between those two eclipses, that all that time in between, that was like your chapter one of relearning who you are, what you are attracted to, what details you are actually focusing on, because every little puzzle piece means something in the greater scheme of your expression, right? And we talked about for the Virgo season reading that like pay attention to the details, write down the details. Keep note, keep track of the details because they're always going to come back in some sort of way. This feels like, I'm thinking of like Arthur Morgan, how he journals everything. His journal is like the collection of his life and his experiences. And that's, I think that's going to be very important throughout Virgo season and especially for this Pisces full moon. And even before that, and like going back to any notes you did take, any journals, anything you wrote in your planner, any artwork you made, going back to that from the Virgo full moon eclipse all the way through so you can learn about how you learned about yourself. Going back to that idea of being a student of self, of a master of yourself. That's what this Pisces full moon is going to represent. It's like the culmination, again, that word, the acme, right? The very peak. That's what acme means. It's the acme of, oh, okay, I've learned everything I can learn now about myself, about my new direction, about my recalibration, how like my priorities have shifted and how I've moved with the shifts where in the past I would have been, maybe intimidated by the shifts and the changes. I would have tried to hide behind my walls and pretended everything else changing didn't exist. But now that I don't have my walls anymore, I'm recognizing now how easily I've adapted with the shifts and the changes. And now that we're at the Pisces full moon eclipse, again, eclipses are beginning and endings of cycles. So where that and I always say the beginning is always found in the ending is always found in the beginning. The Virgo full moon eclipse on the 3rd of March, that was both the ending of the old and the beginning of the new, this new method of exploration, right? And so this eclipse season with the Leo new moon and the Pisces full moon eclipse, this eclipse season is representing, okay, this is the end of the trial period, right? The first chapter. And now this Pisces eclipse represents, we're not yet starting the second chapter. We have one more mission to go, and that's going to be like the integration, right? And if we're going back to Red Dead Redemption, like this space in between the Pisces full moon eclipse and then the Virgo new moon, that's going to be the next one. Not an eclipse, just a new moon. The space in between the Pisces full moon eclipse and the Virgo new moon, which happens at the very end of Virgo season to usher us into Libra season, which is justice. That 2 week space in between the Pisces full moon eclipse and the Virgo new moon, it's going to be like if you have ever played Red Dead Redemption 2. You have that first chapter in Coulter where it's snowy and everything. Those 2 weeks are going to be the transition where you take the cart, the transition from the mountains of Coulter into, oh, what's the first? Why am I? Beecher's Hollow? Is that that's not the first one. The first camp that you go to, right? It's going to be that transition of everybody packing up their bags and moving on to the next iteration of where you're meant to go. And again, with it going into Libra season after that Virgo new moon, what have you learned? Because justice always knows how to discern. What have you learned? What have you gained? How have you held yourself accountable? How have you avoided accountability? What's the culmination of all that you've learned about yourself? And then we can even take it and mirror it back to Aries season about like the first season after this Virgo full moon eclipse in March. What did you do to reestablish your sense of self? What did you do to rediscover who you are? Because Aries has a focus on the self, where Libra has a focus on the other. It's the relationship with the other versus the relationship with the self. And it's a culmination. Again, I keep saying that word culmination because we're building on top of what we have already experienced. We're building on top of what we have already known, right? So we get into Libra season. I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but you know what? I think it's important. We get into Libra season, and what you will earn that justice has discerned for you specifically is going to be directly rooted in the relationship you have with self and how you are able to hold and maintain the structure of your relationship with self when in relation with others. Obviously, without stepping on anybody and being a fucking dick for no reason, right? That's important to mention. But we're going to talk more about that for Libra season. It felt important to note here. Again, we went a little bit backwards and then we jumped a little bit ahead. So now let's get back to the present moment, baby. Let's get back to this Pisces full moon lunar eclipse. So that will station exact again on the 28th of August at 12:18 a.m. Eastern time at 4 degrees and 54 minutes in Virgo for the sun and then Pisces for that full moon. Now, as we talked, we already mentioned that how everything was direct, and now everything in Aries is going to be retrograde. Everything in and around Aries is going to be retrograde for this full moon. Um, Chiron, Chiron's at 0 degrees Taurus, but getting ready to go back into Aries. So in and around Aries again, Chiron, Vesta, Eris, Pallas, Saturn, and Neptune are all going to be retrograde in Aries. So again, there's that emphasis of almost bringing it back to the self, going back into your head, and it might feel foggy, it might feel dense. Something came to me earlier today when I was making breakfast because I had this very profound moment of like something very magical anchoring from, we won't get into the details, but something very magical anchored within me, right? And I felt this like density in my head and in my body. And I heard Spirit say to me, you feel the density because it's grounding. It feels dense because it's grounding. It's being made tangible first through your body. So then you can anchor into the frequency of that tangibility so you can attract it to you or birth it through you, right? So that's kind of that density, and that's what I'm feeling around like this Aries energy of everything being retrograde, and then Chiron about to join them in Aries as well. Again, going back to the deepest wounds and our greatest efforts to heal them. So Chiron moving back into Aries shortly during Virgo season, shortly after this eclipse, it's revisiting. So you were in Aries when the walls were decimated and crumbled down. How have you grown since then? Are you still trying to subtly hide behind maybe not the big walls that you have, but do you still have habits of hiding yourself, your expression? Because that's also Aries, your personal expression. Are you hiding yourself, your willpower, your drive? Are you still hiding? That's going to be what all that retrograde energy is, especially when Chiron joins them as well. But again, if you feel the density, it's not necessarily something to run away from, or it's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something is grounding into reality through you. Through you. And again, whether that means you are feeling it in your body as that density so it can be attracted to you, or so you can birth it into existence. Again, that word birth, that keeps coming up. So take it as it resonates, right? It'll be different for different people, but there's this element again with eclipses of endings and beginnings. What are you making space for in your body? What have you made space for in your body to allow this density to actually be felt so that you can channel it in the right way that it needs to be channeled? Going on top of that, so the sun is going to be at 4 degrees and 54 minutes in Virgo, directly conjoining Neptune within a single degree. Or not Neptune, sorry, Mercury. Excuse me, I don't know where I got Neptune. Directly conjoining Mercury within a single degree. Mercury is going to be at 5 degrees and 22 minutes in Virgo. So less than a half of a degree away, 28 minutes away from each other. The sun directly conjoining Mercury. And to note, the sun is in Virgo, ruled by Mercury, which is in Virgo. So this is a similar situation as we had to the Aquarius full moon, where it was all the other planets were ruled by the moon and therefore Saturn, except for the sun and Jupiter. And now we're moving it to where all the planets, actually, no, it's kind of a split here because Jupiter is in Leo, ruled by the sun, which is in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. We have Uranus, also ruled by that Mercury. So we have a couple there. And then Mars is ruled by the moon, which means everything in Aries is ruled by the moon. Where's Venus? Venus is in Libra, so Venus is just kind of hanging out, having a good time as the mediator, right? The unbiased third party opinion. So Venus and Libra of her, I love that. But there is kind of a more of a balanced thing than we saw in the Aquarius full moon, right? But I really like that the Sun and Mercury have that the Sun is ruled by Mercury, which is ruled by Mercury, and they're right next to each other, right? Directly opposing the moon, which is still in a loose conjunction with the North Node, which is now at 29 degrees Aquarius, just under a 4 degree orb. But there's still that energy there of like So while the sun and while the sun and Mercury are conjoining one another and more loosely conjoining the south node, again, just over a 4-degree orb for the sun, just about 5 degrees for Mercury there. The Sun and Mercury conjoining the South Node almost to bring illumination and light to the clarity of mind, right? To how you are growing out of old mindsets, again, that maybe kept you trapped inside your own mental prison, your own boxes there, right? And especially with Uranus being ruled by that Mercury, there's an emphasis on the ability to transmute through unpredictable and unexpected circumstances. So it's allowing your mind to remain open to the possibility that you don't know what the fuck is going to happen, and that's okay, and moving away from the need for control of that, which is ironic because Virgos love control. But regardless, because they're combining the South Node, I think that maybe, and that's why control was just brought up too. It's going to be something you have to consciously work through. Where the South Node, now that it's in Libra, it's a little bit less focused on that control aspect that Virgos can, kind of lean towards. But again, because the Sun and Mercury are in Virgo conjoining that South Node, it's still that energy of like my personal identity, my personal autonomy, and the way that I express that personal autonomy. There is still a sense of it rooted in the need for control. So now that I'm consciously aware of that, and speaking of, Uranus is directly squaring the Sun and Mercury, because Uranus is at 5 degrees Gemini. So not only is Uranus ruled by that Mercury, it's also directly squaring that. And squares bring things to Earth. What did we just talk about? The density and the tangibility. It feels dense because it's coming down to Earth, right? So we have that Uranus. We already talked about that unpredictable and unexpected circumstances, allowing you to ground into this new expanded mindset of recognizing consciously where you are still trying to grasp onto control and how you can utilize your emotions, because that's the moon. Your emotions, your most internal autonomy, separate from the mind. The moon is embodied. The moon is somatic. Feel in your body the ways in which your need for control takes over your mind and adjusts the way you present yourself to the world, right? Tap into the moon energy, because the moon is what is connected to the north node during this eclipse. And with the nude, go get naked. With the moon connected to the north node during this eclipse, that means our somatic awareness, the more we can feel into our body, the more we're being led towards our destiny. So again, there's going to be not necessarily an emphasis, but a highlight on the mind. Kind of emphasis though. Kind of an emphasis, because Jupiter is ruled by the sun. And Jupiter expands everything it touches. And while they're not making a direct aspect to one another, they're in different signs. Jupiter is still ruled by the sun. So just that aspect of Jupiter being ruled by the sun means the sun is being amplified and exaggerated all throughout the next year while Jupiter moves through Leo. So again, the mind, while the sun and Mercury are together, there's illumination to the mind, right? Which can lead to enlightenment, right? It can lead to like greater awareness and understanding by brightening up some of those like dark, oh, I feel something back there. Hold up. Brightening up some of those dark corners that we don't usually look at or talk about or see. There can be that element of illumination in that aspect, but at the same time, because Virgos do have a tendency for control, there can also be a desire to be like, no, no, close that door. We're not going to look at that right now. I don't care if the sun is shining bright as fuck. We don't want to look at that, right? But it's like, because the South Node's involved, it's stuff we got to move through. It's stuff we've got to recognize, allow the illumination. There is something, not like a physical something, but every time I put my hands back here, I got to explore that later, because there's something back there. That's the darkness. We're not closing those doors, okay? We're not closing those doors. We'll move through it tonight, right? But going back to this, it's like, because the mind and the expression, well, the mind and like the outward personal expression of that mind, and because Mercury means expression, but the sun also means like presentation, we'll call it. The mind and the presentation of the self. They're being highlighted. They're mutually highlighting one another right now. But it's going to be more about how you can feel into what this highlighting is doing to you. So where the mind will feel exaggerated, it'll feel like it has the spotlight on it, because it does. The truth is going to exist within the body. The truth isn't necessarily going to be like in the dark spots of your mind, but what those dark spots in your mind get you to feel within you. Because that's not only the way you're going to get clarity of those dark spots in your mind, but it's how you're going to use that clarity, use that illumination to keep you moving on a trajectory towards your destiny, your North Node path, right? This is a post-edit addition to this video, because I didn't realize until I went to add the actual chart to this video. And then I saw it immediately. I said, how the fuck did I miss this, right? Most importantly, arguably, of this entire chart here, we have a yod, also known as a finger of God. between Neptune retrograde at 3 degrees Aries, Pluto retrograde at 3 degrees Aquarius, with none other than that Sun Mercury conjunction as the point, as the tip of that finger. The finger of God, the Yod, destiny. It gives me the Yods always give me the energy of like quite literally a higher source, some sort of power literally coming to earth to move the pieces around the chessboard. To do something that is much bigger than what we can predict, much bigger than what we can see, much bigger than what we can know, because ultimately it's not like we can't decide. It has nothing to do with us. Our decision is not here. It's quite literally the hand of God coming down to maneuver things. Maybe for you. Maybe in the present moment it seems like it's against you, but in the long run it actually works for you. And with everything we've been talking about so far, with the Sun and Mercury kind of illuminating those dark sides of our minds, being anchored, controlled, for lack of a better term, guided, I think would be better, by Neptune retrograde. Neptune is our spirituality. It's also disillusionment. It's also smoke and mirrors. It's the things that we can kind of get like really tripped up on and stuck on and like kind of in a thought loop, right? Echo chamber energy is also Neptune. But at the same time, it's our spiritual understanding of this earth, of this life. And if we think of Neptune in mythology, Neptune rules the sea, the collective unconscious. Neptune is also the modern ruler of Pisces, which represents the collective unconscious. So this energy of Neptune, retrograde, internal, unwinding energy, right? The energy of Neptune retrograde and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Aquarius is the cupbearer. Aquarius is the sign of the collective. Aries is the sign of the individual. That's where Neptune is. So the energy of the collective unconscious and the sign of the individual. With Pluto, that was just a horn. I don't know if you heard that. With Pluto, which is the planet that represents like death and destruction and decay and transformation and rebirth. In the sign, Pluto is also darkness. Pluto in itself could be representative of the unconscious as well. Pluto's also, or sorry, Aquarius is the sign of the collective, the water bearer, of pouring water out of your cup into the waters of the collective. So this transformation and this transformative energy of Pluto in Aquarius, retrograde, internal, unbinding, unwinding, with Neptune in Aries, the sign of the individual, and everything else we just discussed. Those two kind of guiding the finger of God, which at its point is the Sun and Mercury, illumination of consciousness, illumination of awareness, illumination of conscious awareness. In Virgo, which is the sign of the mother, the sign of the harvest, the sign of the virgin. An enlightenment being gifted to us by the hand of God, a greater awareness of the Divine Mother, and how that awareness can lead to our harvest, but not without disillusionment. It's important to note, not without disillusionment, right? And it's bringing up something I that came up today randomly out of nowhere. That song Frere Jacques that we learned on the recorder in elementary school, out of nowhere, the French lyrics to that song came to mind. So I had to dig in my brain to think of what the English lyrics were. Are you sleeping, brother John? Morning bells are ringing, ding dang dong. Those are the Americanized lyrics. Now, a slew of synchronicities over the last couple months, mind you. This wasn't just a quick procession. Slew of synchronicities over the last couple months brought me to an Old Testament Bible from a little free library, but that for whatever reason I decided to grab it. If you've been on my channel long enough, you know it's fuck the church. But I knew to grab it. I didn't touch it for months until about a week ago, when again, kind of the slew of synchronicities brought me to Genesis 2:23. So I got my Bible out for the first time since I collected from the little free library, like last year sometime, right? It was 2025. And I open up to Genesis 2:23. That is the entry that says that women came from the rib cage of Adam, right? But what's fascinating about that entry, 2:23, is that 2:21, just 2 lines before it, I'll actually tell you exactly what the fuck it says because I have it right here, propping up my laptop. Shows how much love I have for the church. Anyway, Genesis 2:21. And granted, this is what I'm doing now, finding the truth within the blasphemy, because this is blasphemy, right? Anyway, Genesis 2:21. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And after Adam slept, that's when God, the Lord God, the Christian God, implanted these, again, blasphemous falsities about the truth of our origins, about our Genesis. He wouldn't have been able to do that if man wasn't sleeping, if man wasn't unconscious. So now with this Pisces eclipse, we have the finger of God being guided by Neptune, our spirituality, collective unconscious, the ocean, all of that, in the sign of the individual, retrograde, which brings us internal. Neptune and Pluto, death and decay and destruction and regeneration and transformation and rebirth in the sign of the collective. Coming to a point with the Sun and Mercury, our conscious expression and our intellect and awareness in the sign of the Virgin, the harvest, the Divine Mother. All while all this other stuff is going on that we will talk about shortly, because again, I'm adding this after I've already edited everything. With everything else going on, including what I'm about to talk about with Hecate and Lilith. This is after Cancer season and Venus telling her story in the cradle. And anyway, I'll let y'all fill in the rest. Well, let's get back to it, shall we? Oh my god, and speaking of, Hecate is going to be directly conjunct the North Node. Not directly, a little bit over a degree, but the North Node's at 29 degrees Aquarius. Hecate is at 28 degrees Aquarius. Hecate is retrograde, so she's still moving back, which means she's going to go back over the North Node once she stations direct. So fascinating stuff. So yeah, not only are you going to gain clarity of the illumination and help use that somatic clarity of illumination to kind of take the feather duster and dust off all of those parts of yourself that A, haven't been looked at in a long time, or B, have never been looked at or touched or thought about. Like in Adventure Time when Finn puts stuff in the vault. He thinks he's putting it in the vault to never see or speak of it again, but there are things from the vault that do come back up later in the series, right? Let this be a time where the vault's reopened. Not even for better or for worse, because ultimately opening that vault will force you to look at things that need to be looked at. Because again, eclipses represents beginning and endings of cycles. So if the beginning's always found in the end, what have you put in your vault that A, you either don't need to carry anymore, or B, looking at it is actually going to give you a clarity of awareness that you didn't realize you were missing to help put together those puzzle pieces we talked about during the Virgo season reading. And especially with Hecate joining the North Node. There's magic in that will help you align to your destiny. There's magic in your somatic practice where if you feel into it to allow that clarity to ground and anchor, especially because the moon's in Pisces, that's the collective unconscious. That's the deep, dark aspects of the self that we can only usually tap into in our dreams unless we do the work to bring those into conscious awareness. And there's a lot of work to do that, right? There's a lot of work to do that. I'm not saying there's not, but Hecate is helping us. The mother of magic, the mother of witches, the mother of the crossroads. Talk about a crossroads with the sun and the moon opposing each other and Mercury in that involvement. Mercury ruling the sun. And indirectly ruling the moon because the moon is in Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is ruled by the sun. So in this case, a lot of those, all. So what did I say earlier? I was wrong about what I said earlier. In this case, all roads do lead back to the sun and Mercury. Because all of that energy in Aries is ruled by Mars, which is in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, which is in Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is in Leo, which is ruled by the sun, which is in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury in Virgo. The only things in this chart that don't or that aren't involved in that are Chiron, 0 degrees Taurus, ruled by Venus in Libra. And how fascinating that is that our deepest wounds and our efforts to heal them and our affinity towards beauty and love and harmony and healing in that aspect and connection and togetherness. How beautiful that they're kind of like sitting out of this illumination, right? Which tells me that what is going to be revealed to you isn't rooted in the fears. None of it is rooted in the fears. So if you are trying to repress those deep dark shadows because you are afraid they are going to reconnect you to some of your deepest wounds that you thought you already moved through, but maybe there's still lingering like traumas, right? If you are avoiding the accountability, if you're avoiding the illumination, if you're avoiding letting that vault open because you fear the reemergence of your wounds and therefore the reemergence of your coping mechanisms or whatever else comes with that, you're making excuses. You're making excuses. Whatever is revealed to you has nothing to do with the wounds of the past, the wounds that shaped you, the wounds that brought you to where you are today. It has nothing to do with that. They're completely separate. Them and Venus are working with each other right now, and that's fine. I think that's actually beautiful for Chiron. Chiron needs that kind of break, right? That luxury, that connection to worth and rediscovering worth of self through a Venus in its rulership. They're having their own separate journey together, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So if you are avoiding opening that vault because you fear what's within, because you think it has to do with your wounds, it doesn't. And especially with Hecate joining the North Node, everything you're avoiding is actually directly rooted to the destiny you're supposed to walk. It's directly rooted to what you are meant to reveal to yourself. This is magic. This is magic. This is earning a right. This is the next level of awareness that you didn't even realize you were ready for. And sometimes we never feel ready. Most of the time we don't feel ready. But that doesn't mean we're not ready. So again, it goes back into that mind. Because you know what? I said you don't always feel ready. And it's funny I use the word feel because usually it's your mind that tells you you're not ready. But your body knows. You feel. You can feel the truth. You can feel the resonance within your body. Your body knows you're ready because for your body, it's second nature. For your body doesn't have to think about doing it. It just does it. Do or do not. There is no try. Your body doesn't have to think about doing it. It just does it. So if you're avoiding opening that vault on this Pisces full moon eclipse, you're letting your mind win. You're letting your mind tell you you're not ready when your mind honestly should not be in the driver's seat at all. The mind is a really great like passenger princess, right? Pick the playlist, get the directions, look up the best food spots to go to. The mind can be a great companion, a great partner when you learn how to work with it that way. The mind should never be in the driver's seat because your body is more aware than you give it credit for. The body is instinctual. The body knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to warn you when not to do it. It's the mind that overthinks. It's the mind where fear lies. Fear doesn't exist in the body. The only thing that exists within the body is that instinct that tells you, hey, there's something afoot here, which then triggers the anxiety and fear response in your mind. But the body's just the signal, right? The body's just set, like, imagine you're out camping, right? And you all of a sudden get really tense and you don't know why, but your body's saying, like, hey, something's out here that could fucking eat me. Maybe I should get back in the car for a little bit. The body's not feeling the fear. The body is sending signals of warning to the mind, which then creates the fear and the anxiety. So in this case, the doors of the mind will be open. Illumination is going to come through. Illumination is going to come through to help you discover more aspects of you. And if you run away from that out of fear of the wounds that you are afraid may emerge from that, you're off base. You're missing the point. And it's better to actually sit with the fear and move through the fear and allow those doors to still open and allow yourself to channel whatever it is, the darkness, whatever it is that's coming up. Allow yourself to sit with that because you're going to teach yourself. You're going to teach your mind there was nothing to fear in general. And everything you were fearing was actually just an evolvement of your own powers, your own capabilities, your own awareness, your own clarity, your own illumination. And maybe you do fear your own power. But what better way to step into your power than facing the fear of yourself? The walls that Chiron built have already crumbled down. And Chiron's on a sabbatical right now with Venus. Chiron's on vacation. Chiron's sitting on the beach drinking a mojito with her good pal Venus. His good pal Venus. in the two signs that represent love and luxury and balance and harmony and justice and together in unity. Your fears of the fears you have of your wounds in general, they're taken care of during this eclipse. Don't worry about that. What is coming up is so you can expand your mind, open your perspective, expand your horizons, see a new perception of yourself. Recognize that the perception you had of yourself was this in an infinite space, where that infinite space is all you, but this is all you could see of you. This was it. But when you open the door, all of a sudden you move from seeing this to this. And then that door, maybe not immediately, maybe not on the same day, but eventually that door leads you from seeing this to this. And then this, and then this, and then I love how you can see my shadow too, because that's part of it. That's part of it, right? But that's what the doors are leading to. It's this expanded awareness of self and that you were always your own limiting belief. You were always your own prison guard. And the only thing you were truly fearing was you and your power and your capability and the extent to which you can harness your own magic. And when I say that, I don't want it to sound too woo-woo, although if you're on my channel, I feel like you're already swimming in these waters with me, but just in case, I never know who's watching. Just in case, if that sounds too woo-woo to you, I would implore you to understand that magic is not just like herbs and spells and witchcraft. Magic is the foundation. Magic is everything. This world is magic. Science is just magic that has been mathematically explained. Quantum physics is magic. The inexplainable nature of quantum physics, that's magic. It doesn't just have to be witchcraft. I practice what I call psychological magic, mind magic, word magic, energy magic. It's not just this woo-woo ritualistic like witches on a broom type stuff. Magic is science that hasn't been able to be explained by our strict definitions of physics yet. Because with magic, you need to believe it sometimes before it can be seen. You need to trust in the reality of it before there's actually tangible proof. That's what magic is. Self-belief is magic. If you have this vision of yourself, of what you look like, of what you do, your dream job, if you dream of that, whatever, your dream life, your dream situation, right? If you can see that, but your reality right now is maybe you're homeless, maybe you're couch surfing, right? You drive a 1993 beater that breaks down every other day, that you have to steal parts out of the junkyard just to get it to run again. And it's okay because you have a good buddy who's a mechanic who taught you a lot of stuff that you can do most of the work on your own, right? But ultimately, like, your life is abysmal right now. You can see, I keep talking about this vision of the future, right? I've talked about it for the last, like, since Gemini season at least. You have this vision where you're living in luxury. There's opulence, where you're kicking your feet up and sipping mojitos by the pool, by the beach, right? You have this vision of yourself that looks nothing like your current reality. But you're like, this is just temporary. Where I'm at right now, that's fine. I'll get through it. Because I know I'm meant to be there. And if I just figure this shit out one thing at a time, day by day, and never lose that fucking vision, no matter how abysmal this place gets, I know that's going to be me. And all you need to do to get there is hold the vision, first of all, and allow your body to guide you there. Because your body knows exactly what to do, exactly when to do it, and exactly when to hold off and not do it. Your body tells your mind, your body tells your brain how to get there. Your brain holds the vision. Your brain is the projector. Your body is the walk is the way you move towards what you're projecting into the world. That's magic. Trusting in the illogical without any fucking proof, knowing that you're going to get there, that's magic. And no matter what your circumstances tell you or what happens or how shitty things may get or are, you know you're going to get there. So you don't even let this get to you because you know that's your truth. And sometimes you got to trek through the mud to get to the lotus. That's magic. And again, you follow your body, and then one day you're sitting on the beach drinking mojitos. And you just have a moment where you look around and you say, I knew it. I knew it. And it's not even this exciting thing. It's not this illumination where you're like, "Oh my God, I made it." It's like it's calm. It's calm because you know that was always your truth. And it's a cool thing to be living it, but you're calm because you never wavered from your truth. That's magic. You're calm because you knew. And the only way you can know is when you explore the true depths of what's going on all up in here. So you can start allowing your mind to be a companion, to be a friend, to be that passenger princess on your way to the beach to drink some mojitos, right? Because when your mind is this big, there's not enough space for things to really move around. There's not enough space for understanding. There's not enough space for true companionship because everything is very small and compact. And it's like when worry, when you get that signal from your body about worry or like, oh, there could be danger here, there's nowhere for the danger and worry to go. There's no extra space for it to move around. So it just takes up everything. And then all of a sudden, there's no more space in your brain for anything else other than worry, other than anxiety. But when you slowly start to open those doors, you make a little bit more space. So that when you do get those warnings from your body of like, oh, this could be dangerous, maybe I should wait it out. It does take up a lot of the space, but you recognize there are little corners now that you can kind of maneuver to within your mind so that it's not only worry. It's not only sorrow. It's not only grief. It's not only depression. It's not only anxiety. It's not only the quote, the perceivable bad. Perceivable, because nothing's ever bad or good, right? It's a teacher. It's all a teacher. And then once you realize you have more space in your mind, you're like, wait, how did I get here? Oh, yeah, I opened that one door. And then I sat with all of the discomfort that came from that. And then you decide, you know what? Maybe it's time to open another one. And you go towards venturing however that comes up for you, right? And then you get more space. And you realize now, yeah, the warning signs, the worry, they still take up a significant amount of space, but I have so much more room around that it's not debilitating. It's not crippling me from taking any action anymore. Because if my head, right, if my head represents the amount of worry and anxiety and the perceivable bad, right, there's still all of this other space between where if my head here is representative of those worries, I can just move my mind over here for a second and have the space to figure shit out, right? And then you just keep expanding from there until you truly tap into the infinite expanse that exists within here so that you are unfazed by worry, that you recognize anxiety and the signs and the tales from your body as just signs. And like, oh, maybe you shouldn't go right now. It's not that the anxiety and the worry doesn't exist, but you have so much space for everything else. So you're not, again, crippled by it. You're not like stuck in a rut where you can't even move your body because your mind is making you so your body or your mind has taken over your body because your mind has such little room to navigate before you open those doors that the overthinking, the anxiety has nowhere else to go but back into your body. And it's funny because then it disconnects you from your body. But regardless. You know what? I have a couple other things I did want to talk about, but I feel like the point's been made here. We will have okay, that's fascinating. And this brings me back to another reading I did. It might have been the Leo new moon reading. It was, I think it was, where Mars was quincunx Pholus, right? Because quincunx is when they want to work together, they want to talk to one another, but they can't. They can only speak through body language and like subtle shifts and subtle energy interplays and side glances and things. That was the Leo. That was the first eclipse, the Leo new moon eclipse. And now we're at the Virgo full moon eclipse. Mars is going to be at 10 degrees and 58 minutes in Cancer, directly opposing Pholus at 10 degrees and 6 minutes in Capricorn. So this interplay is fascinating with everything we're talking about, especially what I just mentioned, how when you don't expand the mind, the worries of the mind go right back into your body, right? And so that's when you get the shakes and that's when it's like, "Ugh, I can't do anything. Ugh." And I'm not doing that to make fun. I've fucking been there and I get how fucking debilitating it is, which is why I exaggerated that because there was for so much of my life this was me. That was me, like on a conscious and unconscious level. I get it. I get it. So don't take that from me like making jokes. I get it. And I know how fucking debilitating it is. But at the same time, I also know what a gift it is to expand beyond that and how possible it is for everybody to do it. Just with some awareness and some work and some practice and consistency, right? Come back to that Saturn thing. Speaking of Saturn. But yeah, we'll have Mars opposite Phallus. Mars is the planet of action and drive and accidents at times. Accident and war in that aspect, right? But also our passion, what drives us forward, our action. It's how we are moved to take action. Phallus is the asteroid that says one small decision can have lasting impacts and change the trajectory of our lives moving forward from here on out. In the signs of Cancer for Mars and Capricorn for Phallus, it gives me the energy of like Mars is already a bit subdued in Cancer, so it has a harder time taking direct action. There is a bit more like passivity to it, a bit more like for Mars, because Mars is a fire planet, Cancer is a water sign. So again, it's a little bit subdued. When Mars is in Cancer, it also doesn't just do things when it wants to do it, right? When Mars is in Cancer, it has that desire to take action, but then it's like Cancer representing being represented by the moon, the somatics of that aspect. Again, taps us into the body, right? So Mars being in Cancer, ruled by a Pisces moon, so it's double water action there. It's like Mars cannot take direct action until it looks at all sides, until it understands how that action is going to affect the people around you, right? And that doesn't mean, it's that doesn't mean Mars won't take any action if it notices that its action is going to somehow harm or cause disruption in other people's lives. But it's like there's that extra layer of empathy where Mars is not just going to be impulsive with their actions. Mars is going to sit and contemplate and reflect and say, how are these actions? How is it possible that these actions are going to affect XYZ? And then with it being in Pisces, or with the moon being in Pisces ruling that Mars, there's that added emphasis of like, not only am I looking out for the emotional well being of others before I take this action, but there's also that connection to the collective unconscious. So it's not even just the emotional speaking, it's like, how is my action going to directly impact their psyche, right? Speaking of psyche, where is Psyche? Oh, Psyche, technically conjoining Jupiter, but with asteroids, I usually keep it at like a 2.5 degree orb, and they're 4 degrees and 1 minute apart. But because it's Jupiter, we could technically consider that as well. Also directly conjoining the IC for the exact moment that the eclipse station's exact. Because the IC is at 16 degrees and 1 minute, Psyche is at 16 degrees 53 minutes. Remember, the IC represents our roots. Psyche represents our soul, the seat of our soul, the things we move through in order to find like the true strength of our soul, the strength of spirit. But anyway, I'm jumping around all over the place. Going back to Mars opposite Phallus, one small decision rooted in this empathetic awareness and understanding of how your actions impact others. One small decision could have lasting effects on your life and the lives of others moving forward. Phallus being in Capricorn, just before Lilith enters Capricorn in a couple days. Phallus being in Capricorn, Lilith is also sextile Hecate, who's conjoining the North Node. And that's a 13-minute orb between Lilith and Hecate, which is amplifying that magical aspect of this. The magical aspect of and the aspect of repression too. So because Lilith represents like that repressive nature, like the things we repress, I should say, or have been taught to repress, and the re-embodying that which has been repressed, because the re-embodiment of that helps us become our fullest expression of self, right? With Lilith making that sextile with Hecate, she's not directly connected to um the Sun Mercury conjunction. Although, again, indirectly, Lilith is in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, which is ruled by the Sun, which is ruled by Mercury in this case. But again, indirectly speaking, where she has this direct aspect to Hecate, two very prominent goddesses in witchcraft, two very prominent goddesses for women who are on the path to discover themselves in their fullness, right? So I mentioned Hecate is helping us and like rediscover our magical qualities and how we can utilize our magic to our advantage, and that our magic and our power is not something we need to run away or stray from. Lilith making that sextile in that dynamic is also saying all the things you've been taught to repress are your fucking superpower. They're directly connected to your magical abilities. They're directly to the power you hold to create the life that you actually want to live by listening to your body. So I think that's really fucking beautiful. We'll also have Vesta directly squaring Juno, both of them retrograde, 27 degrees Aries and Capricorn, respectively. Um, and that's a 45-minute orb, less than a single degree. And we've talked about both Vesta and Juno a lot on this channel in these last couple readings because they have been playing a very big role, especially during Cancer and Leo season. Vesta is our sacred flame, our devotion to self, our devotion to our spiritual path. And Juno is divine union, it's marriage, it's matrimony in that aspect. But I challenge you to think of Juno as more than just the patriarchal structure of marriage, especially as we are moving towards the end of the patriarchy. So therefore, our perception of marriage is going to drastically change. And when I think of Juno now, rather than looking at as the traditional structure of marriage, I think of Juno more as union. Oh, I didn't mean to fucking flip you off there. Think of Juno as union. Okay, but I think of Juno more as like divine union, right? It's like this coming together in true partnership, not necessarily just romantically, not necessarily legally, but like this true union of soul and spirit and mind and body, like that this union that can be internal just as much as as we see it externally. So Vesta, our devotional flame squaring Juno, that matrimony. What are we, and I spoke on this I think in the Virgo season reading too. What are we coming together with? What are we showing enough devotion to that we are then enmeshing ourselves with it, coming into union with that thing? And with the squares, it's grounding into reality in the cardinal signs too, in the oldest and the youngest cardinal sign. We're grounding it into reality to utilize this as a method for taking direct action without following anybody else, therefore leading through direct action like rooted directly in that which we are devoted to and how our devotion is allowing this marriage, this matrimony to be birthed through us while we're unlocking all of these different sides of ourselves, of our minds, of our bodies, of our souls, of our spirits, and listening to our body to lead us towards our destiny, which is directly connected to the awakening of our magic within us. And with Mars opposite Phallus, one small decision and the follow through of that decision can alter the trajectory of your lives and of your life and the lives of others moving forward. That small decision can be not to let fear prevent you from discovering the true extent of who you actually are. Because again, that fear that's rooted in the wounds and rooted in the desire to protect yourself, your wounds are being taken care of right now. Chiron in Taurus, ruled by a Venus in its rulership, your wounds are taken care of. They're on vacation, they're on the beach drinking a mojito, while you are meant to get to work to find that unity between mind and body. Because discovering that unity, not straying away from what is being illuminated, you discovering that unity of self is your direct passage to the path of your destiny. Again, the North Node has just moved into Aquarius at the time of this eclipse. A whole new world being birthed, not only externally, yes, things much bigger than us are being rearranged like Jenga pieces right now, right? We're at the beginning of the end of the system. I mentioned that before. We're at the beginning of the end. Things are rearranging in a bigger way than you will ever even be able to see or touch, right? But as above, so below. So if all of that shit is rearranging itself, don't you want to get ahead of it in your own body? If you learn how to rearrange your own pieces within, anything that is rearranged externally isn't going to fucking stifle you. It's not going to knock you off your path. It's not going to make you question or doubt, or even if it does make you question or doubt, you have enough proof that your belief is truth. Again, because now you exist in your infinite expanse of your mind. You have enough proof that this tower falling down in the distance, again, imagine your mind being an expansive thing and your external reality representing like this big city in this expanse of your mind, right? This big city full of Jenga towers. And the system itself, that's the big city. and then one Jenga block gets pulled out and the entire city collapses. And you're watching it happen, and you might feel some type of way about it, but that's like one small area of this infinite expanse. And not only that, the Jenga tower collapses. What do you do after the Jenga tower collapses? Do you cry? Do you get really upset? Do you fucking kick the blocks and storm off and get really mad about it? Or do you rebuild? Maybe a little bit of both, right? That's okay. You're human. But eventually you rebuild. And I think that's all that wants to be said. Thanks for being here, y'all. Happy eclipse season and happy whatever's coming next. Happy exploring. Inward, onward, and upward, my people. Love y'all.